Chapter 8 of Uncle Silas. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Uncle Silas by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. Chapter 8 The Smoker. 3 years later I learned, in a way she probably little expected, and then did not much care about, what really occurred there. I learned even phrases and looks, for the story was related by one who had heard it told, and therefore I ventured to narrate what at the moment I neither saw nor suspected. While I sat, flushed and nervous, upon a flat stone by the bank of the little stream, Madame looked over her shoulder, and perceiving that I was out of sight, she abated her pace, and turned sharply towards the ruin which lay at her left. It was her first visit, and she was merely exploring. But now, with a perfectly shrewd and businesslike air, turning the corner of the building, she saw, seated upon the edge of a gravestone, a rather fat and flashily equipped young man, with large light whiskers, a jerry hat, green cutaway coat with gilt buttons, and waistcoat and trousers rather striking than elegant in pattern. He was smoking a short pipe, and made a nod to Madame, without either removing it from his lips or rising, but with his brown and rather good-looking face turned up, he eyed her with something of the impudent and sulky expression that was habitual to it.
"Ah, Dider, you are there, and look so well. I am here too, quite alone. But my friend, she wait outside in the churchyard, beside the little river, for she must not think I know you. So I am come alone."
"You're a quarter late, and I lost a fight by you, old girl, this morning," said the gay man, and spat on the ground. "And I wish you would not call me Diddle. I'll call you Granny if you do."
"Eh bien, Dud then. She is very nice. What you like? Slim waist, white teeth, very nice eyes. Dark, what you say is best, and nice little foot and ankle."
Madame smiled leeringly. Dud smoked on. "Go on," said Dud, with a nod of command.
"I am teach her to sing and play. She has such sweet voice."
There was another interval here. "Well, that isn't much good. I hate women screeching about fairies and flowers. Hang her, there's a scarecrow as sings at Curl's Divan. Such a caterwauling upon a stage. I'd like to put my 2 barrels into her." By this time Dud's pipe was out, and he could afford to converse.
"You shall see her and decide. You will walk down the river and pass her by."
"That as may be. Howsoever, it would not do, nohow, to buy a pig in a poke, you know. And suppose I shouldn't like her arter all." Madame sneered with a patois ejaculation of derision.
"Very good. Then someone else will not be so hard to please, as you will soon find."
"Someone's been a-looking arter her, you mean?" said the young man, with a shrewd, uneasy glance on the cunning face of the French lady.
"I mean precisely that which I mean,"
replied the lady, with a teasing pause at the break I have marked. "Come, old un, none of your damn old chaff, if you want me to stay here listening to you. Speak out, can't you? There's any chap as has been looking arter her, is there?"
"Eh bien, I suppose some."
"Well, you suppose, and I suppose, and we may all suppose, I guess. But that does not make a thing be, as wasn't before. You tell me as how the lass is kept private up there, and will be till you're done educating her. A precious good un that is." And he laughed a little lazily, with the ivory handle of his cane on his lip, and eyeing Madame with insolent derision. Madame laughed, but looked rather dangerous. "I'm only chaffing, you know, old girl. You've been chaffing. Why shouldn't I? But I don't see why she can't wait a bit. And what's all the damned hurry for? I'm in no hurry. I don't want a wife on my back for a while. There's no fellow's married till he took a bit of fun and seen life. Is there? And why should I be driving with her to fairs or to church or to meeting, by jingo? For they say she's a Quaker, with a babby on each knee, only to please them as will be dead and rotten when I'm only beginning.
Ah, you are such charming fellow. Always the same, always sensible. So I and my friend, we will walk home again. And you go see Maggie Hawks. Goodbye, goodbye.
Quiet, you fool, can't ye? Said the young gentleman, with the sort of grin that made his face vicious when a horse vexed him. Whoever said I wouldn't go look at the girl? Why, you know that's just what I came here for, don't you? Only when I think a bit and the notion comes across me, why shouldn't I speak out? I'm not one of them shilly-shallies. If I like the girl, I'll not be mug in, mug out about it. Only mind ye, I'll judge for myself. Is that her a-comin'?
No, it was a distant sound.
Madame peeped around the corner. No one was approaching.
Well, you go round that way, and you only look at her. You know, for she is such fool, so nervous.
Oh, is that the way with her? Said Dud, knocking out the ashes of his pipe on a tombstone, and replacing the Turkish utensil in his pocket. Well then, old lass, goodbye. And he shook her hand. And d'ye see, don't ye come up till I pass, for I'm no hand at play actin', and if you called me sir, or was comin' it dignified and distant, you know, I'd be sure to laugh, almost, and let it all out. So goodbye, d'ye see, and if you want me again to be sharp to time, mind. From habit, he looked about for his dogs, but he had not brought one. He had come unostentatiously by rail, travelling in a third-class carriage, for the advantage of Jack Briderly's company, and getting a world of useful wrinkles about the steeplechase that was coming off next week. So he strode away, cutting off the heads of the nettles with his cane as he went, and Madame walked forth into the open space among the graves, where I might have seen her had I stood up, looking with the absorbed gaze of an artist on the ruin. In a little while, along the path, I heard the clank of a step, and the gentleman in the green cutaway coat, sucking his cane and eyeing me with an offensive familiar sort of stare the while, passed me by, rather hesitating as he did so. I was glad when he turned the corner in the little hollow close by, and disappeared. I stood up at once, and was reassured by the sight of Madame not very many yards away, looking at the ruin, and apparently restored to her right mind. The last beams of the sun were by this time touching the uplands, and I was longing to recommence our walk home. I was hesitating about calling to Madame, because that lady had a certain spirit of opposition within her, and to disclose a small wish of any sort was generally, if it lay in her power, to prevent its accomplishment. At this moment the gentleman in the green coat returned, approaching me with a slow sort of swagger. I say, miss, I dropped a glove close by here. May you have seen it? No, sir, I said, drawing back a little and looking, I dare say, both frightened and offended. I do think I must have dropped it close by your foot, miss. No, sir, I repeated. No offence, miss, but you're sure you didn't hide it? I was beginning to grow seriously uncomfortable. Don't be frightened, miss, it's only a bit of chaff. I'm not going to search. I called aloud, Madame! Madame! And he whistled through his fingers and shouted, Madame! Madame! And added, She's as deaf as a tombstone, or she'll hear that. Give her my compliments, and say I said you're a beauty, miss. And with a laugh and a leer, he strode off. Altogether this had not been a very pleasant excursion. Madame gobbled up our sandwiches, commending them every now and then to me, but I had been too much excited to have any appetite left, and very tired I was when we reached home. So that is lady coming to Machel? Said Madame, who knew everything. What is her name? I forget. Lady Knollys, I answered. Lady Knollys? What odd name. She is very young, is she not? Past 50, I think. Alas, she's very old then. Is she rich? I don't know. She has this place in Derbyshire. Derbyshire? That is one of your English counties, is it not? Oh, yes, madame, I answered, laughing. I have said it to you twice since you came. And I gabbled through the chief towns and rivers as catalogued in my geography. But to be sure, of course, Shire. And is she your relation? Papa's first cousin. Won't you present me, pray? I would so like. Madame had fallen into the English way of liking people with titles, as perhaps foreigners would if titles implied the sort of power they do generally with us. "Certainly, madame."
"You will not forget?"
"Oh, no." Madame reminded me twice in the course of the evening of my promise. She was very eager on this point, but it is a world of disappointment, influenza, and rheumatics, and the next morning Madame was prostrate in her bed, and careless of all things but flannel and James's powder. Madame was désolée, but she could not raise her head. She only murmured a question.
"For how long time, dear, will Lady Knollys remain?"
"A very few days, I believe."
"Alas, how unlucky! Maybe tomorrow I shall be better."
"Oh, my ear!"
"The laudanum, dear child."
And so our conversation for that time ended, and Madame buried her head in her old red cashmere shawl. Chapter 8